Hi there. In this session, we'll look at ICP, FET, and TAO. So I'll cover their Wyckoff stage, their potential price trend change, as well as key price levels. These are education content only, not financial advice. And let's start with ICP. So we'll start with the micro view in the daily chart, and then after we cover all the three, we'll go back to the macro Wyckoff stage. Here for ICP, last week we talked about this uptrend support line that's leading ICP's price to challenge the 2.8 orange key level. However, just right after the day we talked about it on Sunday. Okay, we talked about it on Saturday. On Sunday, it broke below this support, and then you see the next 4 days. The bulls basically tried to reclaim the line. You can clearly see it has turned to resistance and then gets rejected. However, the volume isn't getting higher. So the selling volume actually is starting to decline. While one is weekend factor, the other is you can consider the bears aren't really committing to, like, they're not in a rush, let's put it this way, to put ICP's price back to retest this yellow dash line that we talked about, this 2.24 level. Okay? You can see these two big candles on February 5th and 6th. So that's where we get the reference from. All right. The price can get lower than that line, but most of the 2 months from February to April, the sideways trading range has been between that 2.24 all the way up to 2.8. Okay, technically speaking, ICP is still within that range. And given this uptrend support is broken, we have to observe whether it is developing another new trend. I just want to bring this line back a little because it's not going to cross the ceiling of the bigger downtrend as well as the 3.45 yellow key level anymore, at least in the near term. Okay, it has to reclaim to a certain level. So let's say if it is just trending sideways still, if it's still, the big guys are still seeing the sideways is the most ICP can do, meaning between 2.05 all the way to 2.80. Why 2.05? Look at what happened back in October 2025, the tariff announcement date. And then these two confirmed that that's the big play, okay? The bottom of the big play. Would that get even worse? There is a chance, because back then we've got no prolonged war in the Middle East. Okay, if the war or the conflict in the Middle East finishes as quickly as the situation back in Venezuela, I wouldn't say that. But now that it has profound impact to the entire world, liquidity, the whales are going to see this differently. Institutions are going to reassess their risk. That's something bigger than the tariffs itself. Okay? That's bigger disruption. And that's where the downside risk comes in higher than October. So, base case is this one, but the even worse scenario is looming, because remember we say this bigger downtrend is not over yet for the case of ICP. And if we draw the center line with this downtrend, all right, we haven't drawn this before. If we put it over here, why I put this over here, let me explain. How do I get this line? Because some people would think it's always at the 50% mark of the box. It doesn't. I look at the density of these rejections and support. Okay? There's over, around, up and down, and then resistance, resistance, resistance. Okay, so that's where the center line sits. So that's also explained right there. That's the rejection we got, or ICP got, on the 17th, Friday, 1 week ago. Okay, from there, let me enlarge this. I know a lot of you are watching on mobile phone, so hopefully this helps you see what's happening. Okay, it got rejected right there and it's coming down. So now that it is coming to this point, we've got another reference. All right, if it is really coming back to challenge the yellow dash line over here. If the bulls successfully maintain the price along this line, it is going to come to this triangle or this wedge when we get closer to mid-June. That's 12th of June. Okay, what would happen when we get closer to that date? Okay, trade along this, or maybe dip a little bit lower. Two things, two options, okay? Either break above the center line, which ICP hasn't been able to do it after it dropped back in late January. Okay, it dropped back to the weaker half of this bigger channel that started way back in February 2025. Okay, so either it break above the center line and trade at the stronger half of the channel, meaning slightly positive case, which I also incline to think it should happen that way if the thing I mentioned just now, the impact to the global economy and liquidity from the situation or by the situation in the Middle East is not going to bring us to a worse situation than October 10th. If that's the case, and it trades sideways, it should get to the stronger half of the downtrend channel and eventually get outside of it. Okay, however, if that's really going to drive the world crazy and liquidity going to park to somewhere else, let the market crash to the lowest point it can get to. That means for ICP, it's going to trade along this weaker half of the channel, okay, from this dash line to this support. Where it leads to, it is going, by this date, when we get closer and closer. In that situation, it is going to break the yellow dash line, which I already mentioned. This is not a key level, so it can break. The 2.05 will be challenged. And when that happens, we'll get to another decision point when we get closer and closer to the Independence Day of the US. When we get closer and closer to 4th of July, right over there, we will meet another decision. Okay? That confirmation will let us know. Are the whales or institutions, or even whoever that has been holding ICP in their hands, are they thinking, okay, the world is worse than October 10th? If that's the case, that's when this is going to break. We're getting closer and closer to the moment of truth. 2.05, and I would say it's just referencing these points. Is it the worst? We don't know yet, because it is a seeking the bottom situation still, for the case for ICP, unfortunately. And enough for ICP. We hope that it continues to go sideways, and later on, when we get to the bigger picture, we can see, when we look at Wyckoff, is it going to get better or is it going to get worse? For FET, Artificial Superintelligence Alliance, similarly, but slightly different. So it looks like it is going through this gradual downtrend since October 10th again. Okay? But this time, the difference is that ICP hasn't really dropped below October 10th indicated price. FET was already way lower, since late October. It climbed up a little. So the reference level was 0.268. 26 cents 80 was our reference, or has been our reference level since October 10th. FET, if we count just the closest date since 2026, 18th of January, the price dropped below this green key level. That's the reference level. And ever since then, the price of FET hasn't been able to reclaim the October 10th level. All right, the tariff announcement level. So some parts of altcoins are telling us the story that this is the situation that certain whales are thinking. Okay, they have left some of the altcoins, just parking their money in somewhere else. Look at this level over here. Back in 2023, the accumulation, it was lower than the October 10th level. You see the green line over there. The green line was actually the top of that accumulation trading range. And the bottom was around the 18 cents 40, the yellow key level. FET currently, you can say fortunately, it has come back to this range, same as 2023. We don't want to see it drop back to around the orange key level of 0.112, because that's the 2002 accumulation range. That dip, that spring over there, that's the technical term for Wyckoff, but you can say it's the final dip, the final checkout by the whales before they let the price shoot out. Okay, they check out the paper hands over there. That's 0.052, that red key level. Nobody wants to see the price of FET come back to this point. But given the situation we are seeing now, we talk about that, the price, if it's sustained above this yellow dash support 22 cents 40 and comes to this wedge, by mid-May we'll get a confirmation. Unfortunately, right after our last session, okay, the price dropped below that support line and get to this point that it is testing the uptrend support. There's still 6.5 hours left for today's candle. If it climbs back and close above this line, there's still a chance for this uptrend to continue and edge towards the May 10th date. Okay, look at this uptrend support and this downtrend, the yellow resistance. Okay, that's the confirmation we're going to get. Is the downtrend that started since October 10th going to be over for FET? Or is it going to continue and end this uptrend that started back in beginning of February? So because of the channel box, it looks like it has dropped outside of it. But if I, enlarge this a little, sometimes it's a bit tricky because of the snapping. Technically speaking, it is still right at the edge, testing this support. Okay, so that's where it is. Well, after enlarging, we have to move it by 2 days, but that's not, very solid. The only good thing is that the volume has been significantly declining, so that means there's no clear direction. But there are still certain economic data that's starting to come out. Especially important is the FET interest rates decision. Okay, so that whether it is going to hold, the support is going to hold, we will know very soon. And let's get to TAO, Bittensor. Similarly, you see the sideways pattern in all three, basically. People are waiting. Just that some are trending up, some are trending down. In this case, for Bittensor, it is also within, we can say, a medium-term downtrend. Okay, the bigger trend is actually sideways. So that's October 10th. And then in early Feb, there was this bigger candle, but it's not as prominent as the other altcoins. So in the case of Bittensor, we don't see those two big candles driving prolonged price actions all the way till now. Okay, it basically finished very soon. If you are wondering what I'm talking about, go to various altcoins and look at what happened on October 5th and October 6th. A lot of them have two very significant candles that was basically guarding the range of subsequent trading for 2 months or even longer. For the case of Bittensor, it's different. Okay, so it is now, or it has been actually trading under the influence of the October 10th candle. Okay, you see October 10th, it got to as high as 382, the purple key level. Okay, this candle over here, and all the way down to the red key level 140. So if you look at what has been happening since February, 140 all the way up to 380, and then now it is coming back down. Look at this trend channel box we're tracking, right? So again, it bounced over here, and it is edging to the ceiling once again. So this little trend box that we have been tracking, we said, okay, is it going to develop a steeper downtrend? No. We talked about this, right? By April 17th, we get a confirmation. So last week we see it has gone outside of this steeper downtrend. So this is the base case that it is heading back down to 140. Okay. Remember, we're saying it's going sideways from 382 all the way down to 140, and then bounce up, and then now it's coming back down. So it is still within the bigger sideways trend base case. So this gives us a confirmation. Now it is getting to this point. And if this is really a trend, all right, April 27th hasn't passed. So technically speaking, if some money came in and pushed the price outside of this downtrend, that's still possible. Because if this is let's say this is the sideways trend, okay? Let's say this is what it is we are going through. All right, look at this box over here. I would draw the center line around, I'm looking at where the support and resistance is, the green line, the 268. So the box is from 140 to 382. The center line is around the green key level 268. You see these supports. Okay, so it is getting back to the center line, and once it gets close to the center line, there is a chance for it to get rejected again. That's when it comes back down. So it's like it's got this mini pump. Look at the volume over there, and then the second test, the price got driven down, and then it's got this. I don't even agree that this is a rally. It is actually just sideways, and it has lower highs. It is basically a wedge, you can see. Okay, so this leads to a point right over there, April 30th. Okay, if 27th, no magic happens. By the 30th, if the bulls are still defending this trend line, it is getting to the decision point. Is it going to break outside of this downtrend over here, or is it going to continue downwards? testing 220, and by May 8th, give us the decision, okay? Continue with the downtrend or breaking outside of it. And if it continues, there are multiple confirmation that we can get, okay? 180 is very key, okay? Look at what happened over here. That's where it found support in the second half of February and the early half of March. It found support at that point and then bounced back up to the ceiling of this sideways trend. So when it comes to the 180 level, if it does, okay, if it really breaks below the 220 by beginning of May, there is a chance that it is going to give us a confirmation, a higher chance compared to the yellow key level, that, it is going to go outside of this downtrend and might, start another test to those levels again, the blue and the purple, 350, 382. But it's still early because it hasn't gone to that point yet. You can tell it's like still a month apart by the time we get there. Like May 17th, we're only April 25th right now. Okay, all right. So now let's get to the big picture, starting with ICP, the Wyckoff stages. And remember, the dashboards that helps you avoid FOMO and panic is now available on Substack. I have weekly summary and events that you can look forward to in those Substack posts as well. So go check it out while it's still free at the moment. ICP, big picture, Wyckoff. So that is still within the mid-late stage of accumulation. Basically the testing of paper hands. Okay, the whales are going to shake out as much as possible as long as there's still paper hands around. Of course, you can say, okay, there's so many, so much portion of tokens across different projects that's being held by the team, the project team, or the foundation, whichever project you are looking at, and it's them that consistently selling, driving the price down. It doesn't matter who's selling, okay? Basically, that's what it is, right? As long as you can call them all paper hands, they're just going to sell anyway, depending on market situation. Or some whales might be getting in while people are selling, so we never know. So the stage is basically still within this range. And what we want to see is a sign of strength, meaning the price comes back to challenge the 4.35 green key level. That's where the automatic rally showed us. Okay, that should be the range. From the red 2.05 all the way to 4.35. It is shuffling between the red and orange, and eventually, when we see that happen, with higher than average volume, like what we had back in mid-January, that's the sign we see money are coming back. That doesn't translate to immediate climb to another peak, okay? It's a positive sign, but not until we see sustained volume increase, all right? Like what happened back in 2003, 2004 to the distribution. And again, the second time later in 2024 December. Okay? So, FET, same case. Okay, even though it's going through a medium-term downtrend, that's what we are hoping to see for FET. Okay, coming for a sign of strength with higher than average volume sustaining. Okay, what we got in the past 7th to 4th week, that's what we want to see, but it didn't continue. There is a chance when this trade gets gapped over here, well, even though it's lower high, lower lows, some people will say, hey, isn't that a bull flag? So eventually it's going to break to the upside. While that may be the case, but you always hear me say those candlestick patterns, like the bull flag, bear flag, there are exceptions. You can find exceptions. So while it shows us the possibility, uh, always, don't think it's 100% going to happen that way. All right, so this gap is key. When it comes to test 184, is it going to continue with this? Or is this kind of volume going to come in and breach this resistance and show us that the price is going to first rechallenge to 0.347, the light blue key level? Why that is key? Because that's where the selling climax was. This little dip over here. And eventually, the next very key, it's somewhere around this 0.711. Okay, that's where last accumulation cycle sign of strength hit, and then where it retracted or retraced. And top. Okay, top, we have seen the sign of strength. Okay, we're testing not only the light blue key level 300, it went all the way to test 350. See, automatic rarely tested the light blue, that's where it came. And I mentioned many times, sign of strength, expect some kind of price retracement. Sometimes it dipped back to the low points or even lower for a spring, like what happened over here. And then the price shoot up. Sometimes, it just accumulates somewhere in the middle, and then we see another plateau, and then that's where the price shoot up. So that's just the first positive sign, but there can still be tests during the accumulation cycle. The key, if you ask, is how do we know it is going to finish or there is going to be a rally? I use this train metaphor, right? Imagine all the carts, the compartments of the train, and good news lining up. Okay, if you see a train that's coming in for the next few weeks, not even few months, okay? Let's say a dovish US Fed chair. And then, crypto regulations, new big breakthrough, crypto industry, new big breakthrough, all become quantum proof, yada, yada, yada. If those are coming back in, or liquidity is going to improve, Middle East situation improves, that's going to drive the liquidity going back to risk on mode. And just a few weeks, look at that, 4 weeks over here, 5 weeks over here, 5 weeks over here, 5 weeks over here. Just 5 weeks are enough to drive the FOMO behavior. Remember, there's always people jumping in. That's the train of news. That's where it's going to determine, okay, whether it's going to go up or is it going to just chop here and there. All right, remember, the Substack handle is SLS. Go check out the post and help you avoid FOMO and panic. Thanks for joining. See you in the next video. Ciao.